Okay, we're going to look at setting up a point on a CANMEO Universal and display point positioning with a CANPAN and control the button on the CANPAN as well. Now I'm aware that Sven has done a video that goes exactly through the same sort of stuff, but there have been a few things added to MMC since he did that, and there are a few things that I think are worthwhile pointing out in the workflow that relate to that. So away we go. Now this is the run sheet. We'll have a look at the environment, the scenario we're going to run, the hardware and software, the configuration elements, and then we're going to go and configure this thing. The environment. The railway is the center of the known universe, and probably the center of the unknown universe as well. Around that we have a whole pile of things. We've got lights, sensors, motors, sound, whatever the hell we're trying to control or bring in as information. Those sensors and actuators are driven by our CBus and VLCB modules. Now, the dotted line around here is to indicate that we have some CBus modules, in particular CANMEO board, Pete Brownlow's. There are daughter cards you can put on there that have coil current type detectors on the top of them. So that blurs the boundary of where is the detector and where is the module. So your sensors are actually on the board. Now around the outside we've got the management tools that we can play with. So we've got FCU that we all probably know about and have used from years gone by and even recently. Module management console that has been being developed for quite a while now by David Ellis, based on original work by Nigel Phillips. Then we have other configuration tools and methods. Now, in that I would put things like loading files onto the CAN Pico, putting SD cards in that are data for various modules. So that's what I would put in that camp. Potentially the compiler for CAN Compute, but even there you can use MMC or FCU to load the rules into your CAN Compute. Now over this side we've got a section indicating layout control / automation software. Now the most obvious one of those is JMRI, and JMRI can configure node variables and save your nodes, i.e. back up your nodes. And you can do a fair bit of stuff with it. I've not used it much at all, other than a little bit of testing when I've been curious about what MMC is doing. But I know people like Duncan use JMRI to do the work. Other things that you can do in a model railway environment. JMRI, for instance, supports multiple layout control buses, so you can have up to 4 layout control buses under here. So we may have CBus doing some, we could have LocoNet doing something, we could even have serial connections out of our JMRI host talking to sensor hubs, like was talked about on the Little Wicket YouTube channel. Now all of that stuff is possible, but it's out of scope for what we're going to try and do today, but I thought it needed explaining about what else is missing off this diagram. So traction systems are also left out. We don't care. I'll go back. We don't care if we're running DC, DCC, Bluetooth, whatever. We're really concerned about setting up the modules to control these elements here. Okay. Now, what is our scenario? We want to have a single control panel switch, a push button switch, to throw a point to reverse, and our point is going to be called MPD01 for Motive Power Depot. That point will be a live frog point on channel 1 of the CANVServo running universal VLCB firmware. So if we press the switch a second time, we'll get the point to go to the closed position, so set to normal, which basically means go straight through for most people's view of points. and then we're going to use virtual feedback coming out of our CANVServo. We're not going to use switches connected to the point motor. I've got some switches here and some point motors that way, but for this example we're just going to use the virtual stuff. It really is very easy to go from the virtual to the physical if you set them up with the short events that I'll show you today. Okay, now our feedback, we want to have a couple of LEDs on the panel. LED 1 to be whether the point is in the normal position. LED 2 to be whether the point is in the reverse position. So as the point's moving from normal to reverse, both LEDs will be up. As it's moving from reverse to normal, both LEDs will be up. Okay, we also want to control the frog polarity. Now, what we're going to use is the midpoint event that the CANMEO Universal can generate for us, CANVServo module. And in the scenario, we'll be saying we have an active high opto-coupled relay on channel 9 of the same CANVServo. If I wanted to use a relay directly, then I would need either an external driver or I would need to use CANVout. And for the purpose of the example, we're going to simulate that we have a relay out there. Now, Sven had real relays on his, so he had an advantage in that space. We need to be clear about whether the relay is energized or for the normal position or the reverse, so we're going to say it's energized for the reverse. We're going to use short events throughout, and we're going to use MMC. Okay, hardware and software used. CAN USB 4 is the obvious choice for connection. It's the easiest and most widespread use. You can use other I/O modules into your layout, but it makes MMC quite easy if you're using CAN USB 4 because you can leave the connection in auto mode and it'll find it. The other stuff we're going to use, a CANPAN 4 MHz variety, the same sorts in the KitLocker version 1Y firmware. We've got a TM7 board attached, so it's got 32 LEDs and 8 switches available to us, and we're using CANVServo with the 26K80 processor. I have some that have got the Q83s, but we're going to use the 26K80 to be similar to what everybody else is using here, even though you wouldn't be able to tell the difference other than in the parameters information on the board. Okay, and we'll use MMC. Now we might just have a look at what the board looks like that we're using. And if I go there and transition, right. So here we have the TM7 board with the LEDs and the switches. Over here we've got the CANPAN connected to it. Up here is our CAN USB 4. This board's not in use, it's a CANMEO. The board that's being used here is a CANVServo. And the board there is not even connected, so it won't appear in MMC. The other boards I've left disconnected as well for this example. So our scenario is going to exist on that board, and we'll be configuring using this one. Okay. Now, what's next? What's next is transition. These are the configuration elements we're going to be working on. So we have to give the CANPAN a node number and a name. We have to give our CANVServo a node number and a name. The events we're going to use, we need an event to say move this point to reverse, and I'm going to call that MPD01 set to reverse. Could have said move to reverse. What's important is I'm distinguishing that this is the one doing the moving from the ones that are doing the feedback. Here we have a node, an event number of 1001. So I basically just went to 1000 and added the point number. For my feedback for normal position, I've gone 2001. Feedback for is it at the reverse position, 2500. and MPD has passed mid 2601. Why did I use a big chunk of different ranges here? The answer is pretty simple. If I come along and want to do MPD02, I'll be 1002, MPD03, 1003. So I can easily extend those numbers through there and all my points will be together in the number order. Not important, probably one of those OCD type things. I do like to do things that way though. Other things we've got here, we have a couple of events that I will always do when I'm configuring modules and layouts. I always have an event to test all the LEDs on my panels. And for every board that can do feedback, I always create an event to give me start of day information, give me all the feedback information that's available to me. So I can see that it's bringing back everything I need, and typically no more than I need as well. So there are a couple of things that I do in the way I do things, and I find them particularly useful. In a real production environment, I'll also have extra SODs. So I'll put a whole pile of modules, like maybe 6 or 10 modules into a group, and I'll create a SOD group 1. And during my power-up sequence, there'll be an event go out, SOD group 1, and a pause for maybe a second. And all those events will come back and lights will light up on panels and the like, and then I'll do SOD group 2. So what I do is I limit the number of events that are flying around on the bus at any one time. So I should not get lost events. I get a deterministic startup. Okay, I'll need that cheat sheet as I go along. Demonstration time. What I'll do is take that slide back one so I can see the text when I need it. And we'll go here. Okay. So over here I've got the icon for starting up MMC. And I'll double click that. And MMC starts with a command window and then comes up and shows me all my layouts that I've got set. Now for this example, I've basically gone and thrown all my test layouts away and just made it new like most people would see as they take this stuff up after this or otherwise. So I'm going to add a layout and I'm going to call it MPD Demo. Add. So now it's in the list. Now, even though it's selected, I can't click proceed. I can edit my connections and we'll see that it just says its mode is auto. And so I'll have to actually click it, and then this will light up bright blue, and I say proceed. MMC's gone out and done a QNN and got some information back, but guess what? It didn't come up and tell me my nodes are there because I've got them both brand new, just been flashed with firmware. So I'm going to start by bringing the CANPAN into FLIM mode. So I'm going to hold the switch down on the board and the green light will go out and I let it go. The yellow light starts flashing and I enter the information that I know I need here, which is that it's going to be node 100 and it's going to be main panel. I could give it a group, but I'm not going to. So there's the first thing we need to do. We can have a look at the parameters of the node if we want. And what will come back is a whole pile of information telling us what module type it is, whether or not it's a VLCB board, which it isn't, the processor that's on there, and the firmware version, and the module definition file that's going to be used for configuration. All interesting stuff. Now, what do we need to do next? Well, I'm going to do a couple of things first. I'm going to go and just have a look at the node variables for this, and CANPAN has one, and it is what to do at startup. I didn't initialize this. Okay, so it's remembered what I had. If I had brought this in as a brand new module, it would have said send all current torch states. That's fine. If all your switches are on-off switches, it'll work okay. But on the downside, if I've got root switches on my panel, and they would be on-only switches, CANPAN has a horrible, nasty little bug to my mind, which is at start of day, when it sends me back all that information, it will send back that each and every one of those switches that I've pressed is on. So I won't get anything sensible for my root switches. It'll mess me up. So to that end, I always set up my CANPANs to do nothing. And I use start of day from all the modules around the layout to give me the feedback to light up my panel. That's how I do it. So that's where I would set the CANPAN's behavior in its node variables. Now, MMC, every time I go to change something, it says, oh, gee, you've changed something here. Do you want to do a backup? It will ask me that question each and every time I change something, unless I say either no and keep saying no every time, or I say don't remind me again. But it's a good reminder, and there's another reminder up here because there's a big red 0 up here saying I've got no backups to this. So far so good. We know what's going on. Our node is in flim mode and it's got no stored events. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to test my panel. So the event that I used for that, let's just have a look. The event I wanted for testing the panel was 3001. So we go to event view and we add an event, a short event, device number 3001. Does it exist? No, doesn't exist. And it's going to be test main panel. Okay, I don't want to put it in an event group. It's useful for if you want to partition your view of what events you're seeing in the event window, but we've only got a small example. I'm not going to do that right now. So there's my event, and currently it's associated with no nodes. So what do I want to do? I would like to teach that event to the only node I have present, which is my CANPAN. So it's going to be a consumed event. So by consumed, it's only going to be affecting my LEDs. I could say I want it to be a produced event, a start of day, self-start of day where it's associated with a switch. So I can do all of those sorts of things. I choose to do a consumed event because all I want to do is to test my LEDs. Now, FCU used to look after you. If EVs, event variables for a module were interrelated, FCU would set the interrelated ones for you and you didn't even know they were there. MMC with MDF files, you need to be careful and set everything up for yourself in these sorts of cases. So if I went and turned a whole pile of LEDs on here and didn't set what I want to happen, nothing would happen. So I need to tell it it's normal. Now, next thing, I have to go through and tell it each and every LED. Unlike FCU, I can't go and say, turn on 1 to 16, turn on 17 to 32, and this action would have been done by now. So I have to go through and turn every one of these on. Similar to what I was talking about before, if you, for what you have to do to make stuff work, if I wanted one of these LEDs to be off in response to an event, I would have to say both active and invert. If I only clicked invert, nothing will happen. I have to have both of those for it to be off when the event is on and on when the event is off. So there are some things that you'll go, I don't understand what I've done, it's not working. Really, it's not you, it's the way the event variables were set up to be used. Okay, so I think I got them all. And the other thing about MMC, it changes everything immediately that you change it. So if you look at the back of the window over here, as I click on these things, messages are going by. Every single time I click something, or enter a value, it sends that information out to the module immediately. There are no second chances. You can't say cancel and go back to where you were. So just be aware, you click it, you get it, okay? There's another thing up the top here. There's channel names, and I won't set that for this module. There's 32 switches, 32 LEDs I can give names, so I'm just going to leave that alone right now. We'll have a look at that when we get to CANVServo and CANMEO Universal Firmware. So now we've got the event there. So what do we want to do? Close that for starters. We'll go and have a look at this board again. And if I press the switch, no, I can't press the switch, I haven't configured the switch. I need to send an on event. And there we go, there's my board. And all the LEDs are working, which is interesting. When I tried that a little while ago, one green LED was not working quite right, so I've got one LED that's not well. So that's the on event, and then I send it off. Boom, done. I'll show you where you can see both things going on. Transition. So up in MMC, all I've done is a send on and a send off. Send on, send off. So there's my test of my module done. So what do I want to do now? I think where we're best to go is back to MMC and start setting up some more events. I could obviously associate a switch with that test of the LEDs, but that's not the way I typically do this stuff. I always do that at startup in a sequence. I'm going to bring the CANMEO Universal firmware into FLIM mode now, or the module into FLIM mode. So I'm holding the button down. Yellow light starts flashing. What node number do I want? I want 200, and this was baseboard 01 MPD. Whoops, 01 would be good. Okay, and I'm not going to put it in a group. If I had a whole pile of boards in the motive powered depot, I might make an MPD group, but the truth of the matter is it really wouldn't matter, because when I'm searching for events, if I type in MPD there, every event that's got MPD in it would turn up, or in this case node. If I'm searching for nodes, every node with MPD in its name would appear. So I'm just going to accept that. Now, what has happened? A whole pile of events appeared in the event window. Where did they come from? Well, they came from node 200. Let's have a look at the node view. Node 200 is my CANMEO Universal. We go back to the event view. What are they? They're long events. So they're the CANMEO Universal's node number followed by the channel for each one. So these are default events that Ian sets up. Now, basically, if we looked at one of these events, what we'd find is it just says change for that channel is the action. We might just have a look at one of those. View. If I look at the variables for that one, it says input 1 has changed, yeah, because it's an input, so it's a feedback event, yeah. Okay, so that's how each and every one of those is set up. Now, if I changed the channel to be an output, still useful. I can test the output going on and off. So yeah, it's just a little curiosity there. Kind of useful, but to keep our presentation clean, I'm going to get rid of those default events, and I'll show you a couple of things we can do. So I might do that first. I'll leave those there for the moment. And what I'll do is I'll go back to our requirements, and we wanted a start of day event. This guy here, this SOD BB01 thing. at 3501. So let's go create that. Add an event, short event, 3501, and we want it to be SOD, start of day, for BB01 MPD. Now I'm pretty sure it was Neil Brody told me that he had a naming convention that was for his nodes. It was what baseboard is it on, and then whatever you wanted after that. So I'll give credit to Neil for that, but I'm not totally sure it was Neil. But he does some nice workflow things. So there's our short event. Now, what do we want to do with this event? Well, let's just make this tidier so I can just see that event. Woo, what happened there? I thought I named that SOD. I'm looking at the short event, at the long events, toggle. No, I've done something silly. View long. I thought I created that event. Let's try again. Add event, short event, 3501, check event. Did I just close it? That's probably what I did wrong. I probably did something stupid. SOD. BB01 MPD. Add event. This will be a warts and all presentation. Me and video editing don't get along. Okay, and I'm not perfect by a long way. So where is my short event? Did I do it again? No, it's there. So now I'm going to teach this event to the CANVServo board. Teach. Now, what do I want? I want a consumed event. Produced event if I put something in there, but no, I want a consumed event. So, consumed event action, I want it to be a start of day. Close. Now, I'm just going to close that. Now we can see the start of day event, and we've taught it to our board. If I send an off, the CANMEOs do the right thing in my mind. If you send a start of day event off, it just ignores it. If I send a start of day on, I get back feedback for every channel that is configured to give me feedback, and an input is basically feedback. So, or a produced event if you want to look at it another way. So I get feedback for all of those. There's a couple of things. I want this node only to tell me about channels I care about. And the other thing I want to do to keep this configuration clean from presentation perspective is not to have it set up default events. So let's do a couple of things. Let's go to the node view, and we're going to have a look at the node variables for this node. There's a couple of things I need to do. This is a CANVServo, so that board has hardware pull-ups for channels 9 to 12, so I need to turn these all off. Okay? Next thing, over here there is a thing that says prevent default event creation. Good idea. So if I change a channel to a servo, it won't set up the feedback events for start, mid, and end. If it did set them up, they'd all be long events, and I want to use short events for this. So it's no big deal, because the CANMEO Universal, if I go and create a short event for feedback, it will delete the long event that was already there. But I'm not going to rely on that. I'm going to do this the cleanest way I know how. Okay, so that's the first thing I would do. The second thing I would do is, hey, I know I'm going to use channels 1 and 9, but I know I'm also getting feedback for all these other channels. That's a bit silly. I can do one of a couple of things. Channel 2, I could change it to be an output, and then it's not a feedback style event. It's not a produced event. I won't get start of day information. Or I just come in here and I turn off start of day responses for these other channels. Not a bad idea. So if I do this and then I do my start of day when I'm done, I will get a nice clean start of day that only tells me about the channels that I care about. Channel 9 I will care about, but I'll configure that for what it needs to be right now. Channel 9 is going to be an output, so our flags change as to what we can do. Do I want the output to go back to its last known state at startup? It's not going to do any harm, it's only the frog relay. What else do I want? Well, I want, as soon as there is an event raised for changing its state, I want it to be actioned immediately. If I don't do that, the midpoint event for setting the channel to be change state from off to on or on to off, it won't generate an event until the servo's finished moving, the whole of the sequence is done. So I'm going to expedite it. That was described by Dave McCabe, great man he was, in his CANVServo presentation years ago. Okay, so that one I need. I don't need to do anything else tricky there. These other guys, they're still inputs. I'm just going to get rid of the start of day response. Inhibit start of day, inhibit start of day. Yes, 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 yes. And that's all my channels set up, except that I didn't change channel 1 to be a servo. I've told it I don't want the default servo event set up. What I'll do is I'll leave that one alone for the moment. I'll show you guys something else first. So my channels are set up except for my servo. If I go back to event view and I toggle, I can see the short events and I can see the long events here. Yeah. Now, you can see where these events are used. I can't delete unused because they're actually unused. No, they're actually used by one module. And if you view which module, guess what? The CANVServo module. CANVServo. So now let's go back to the node view. No, let's go to the event view. Node view. And let's click on events so that we look at the events for this node. Well, I've already set up the SOD, so I don't really want to delete them all. If I had done this without showing you what happens with start of day, I would have just gone in here and gone advanced, delete all events. But I've already got my start of day set up, so I can go through and delete all these individually. What we didn't look at was what happens if I do send a start of day event now that I've changed most of the channels to be not doing anything in terms of start of day. Guess what? I sent out a start of day and I got information back for channel 1 only. It's the only one that's still in a situation of being able to send the event back. Now, what is its state? It's an input. It's got nothing connected. Its state is off. And it's a long event, AC OF. So long event, node 200, event number 1. So that's how clean our start of day messages are coming back now. So if you're trying to debug what's going on, cleaning up what's coming back out of start of day is a really nice thing to do. But right now I'm going to go through and delete all these guys. I'm just going to have to do them the hard way, but that's okay. Okay, I'll just keep going. There was a slight interruption there. Okay. Delete. 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 I'm glad this isn't the one with 24 channels, but it's okay. Workflow wise, I would have done this the easy way previously. And that one. Okay, looks nice and clean. I've only got my short event there that I added. If I look at the events on the CANPAN, we only see the one that I set up there as well. Now, what do we see in events view? So there's a couple of categories here. Bus events is what has the what has MMC seen on the bus? What events has it seen coming in? So it's seen those guys. What has it seen over here? The total view of what it's seen going on. It's seen all these guys and it's told me that all my feedback events were off, but guess what? Look how many times they're used now. It says, of the modules that are connected here, these guys aren't used. Now, that's an important distinction, because if I'm configuring multiple baseboards for a layout and I can only do one at a time, MMC will only show me which ones are actually linked to the ones that I've got present. So be very careful using what I'm about to use. So what I'm going to do here is just say delete all unused events. Now I can see just what I wanted to configure. Okay, so we've got a couple of things done. We've almost got our CANVServo configured. We're going to go back to the node view and configure the servo channel. So over here, we need to go to channel 1 and change its type to be servo. Okay, what do I want my servo to do? Yes, I want it to cut off after it's got to where it needs to be. Do I want it to go to its startup position when I power it up? No, it's going to stay where it was. I don't need to do that. And just as an aside, all of the servos that you click that for, when the CANMEO starts up, it will power them all up at the same time. So even if they're not going to move very far, they're all going to get a current spike concurrently when you turn it on. So I choose not to do that. I will turn on the pull-up. It could help at power up time. But really these ones got, yeah, it's still worth doing. It's just another bit of belt and braces for it not jittering at startup. Okay, so that's all my channels configured. And if I just close that, you'd be used to, if I looked at the events for that node, that I would have feedback events there for it. But guess what? I don't have them because I told it don't create the default events. One other workflow thing that I wanted to show that is new since Sven did his video, and that's in the node variable stuff. These channels, now we know that we want that to be associated with the MPD, BB01 MPD point 1, yeah, that's what we want. We want that one associated with its frog polarity output. So have a look at channel names. Guess what? I can make this guy be MPD01. I can make this guy down here be MPD01 frog polarity. Set. Now I could go through and make all these guys unused, but that would be a little bit of heavy lifting because I've got to do them all individually. They're obviously unused if I always do give them names that are appropriate. So I'm happy enough with that. Now, what does that do for me? Well, we'll find out as soon as we start configuring the servo. Okay, so I'll just close that. But the thing you can see immediately is this channel has already got a name of MPD01 up here, and this one's got a name of MPD01 frog polarity. So our CANVServo from a node variables perspective is fully configured the way I want it. Okay, close. What is the next thing we want to do? We would like an event on our CANVServo to move the point. So that's what we're going to call it, MPD01 set to reverse, and it's 1001. Okay, so events, add an event, a short event. What did I say it was? Forgetful. 2000, I think, 2001. We shall see. 1001 to set it to there. Okay, 1001. Okay, check event. Not used. MPD01 set to reverse. Now, I've toyed with using set or move, but I've settled on set for this one. And I'm not going to put it in a group, I'm just going to add it. Okay, how many nodes is it used on? None. What's the state of the event? Unknown. So we better teach it to a module. And we're going to teach it to this guy. So, it's a consumed event. Now, what do I want it to do? Here's where our names start to turn up again. And it's MPD01 change. I'm going to take that. And that's all I need to do to move the point. I don't have any feedback there. I've just got an event to, oh, I did something else silly. That's good because I need to show you something else as well. Okay, so yes, I set up a servo. How far is it going to move? Absolutely nowhere, because I didn't set up the limits of my travel. So go back to the nodes view, variables, MPD01, and I'll change something else here while I'm here as well, because it's a helpful thing that one of the guys here raised, Stuart Norton raised it, was, hey, give it a name and then you don't know what channel it is. So we'll do that as well. We're going to set our servo down there for its off position, set it up there for its on position, and we'll take it up to just a little bit in speed. That'll do. And we can test and test. And I'll bring this one up so you can see what's going on. Actually, I'll bring this one up. There we go. And I'll test its position there. So we can see it's moving and we can see what speed we're moving at. I'll bump the speed up a little bit more. Okay. Test. Test. That'll do us. No, we'll go down a little bit because if we're going to do the midpoint, we want to see it happen in the middle. Not going too fast is probably a good thing. Okay, so that's configured. There was one other thing that I touched on, which was the channel numbers. So we go back to this channel names, and I'm going to add in here 01. So I know which one it is. In fact, I'll just make it 1. Set. And down here, I'll add a 9 onto that so that when I see the names, I know which channel they are. Close. So now if we go close here and we go back to the events on this guy here and we look at the variables for that guy, now we can see MPD01 on channel 1 change. Yeehaw. So the on event will go to the on position and the off event will go to, sorry, yes, that's right, and the off event will go to the off position. So that means on goes to reverse and off goes to normal. Righto, we're getting through this scenario. We have a point moving. We have our panel tested. We have our starter day configured. We don't have feedback for our point, but we also don't have a switch to control it. Now, usual workflow that you can think of here is I press the switch. It moves the point. The movement of the point will generate feedback from the start, the middle, and the end. And I'll use those feedbacks to control the LEDs on the panel and the output for the frog polarity. So probably at this stage, it wouldn't be a bad thing to make the switch make the point move. So let's do that. So if I go to the events here, I've got the MPD set to reverse event here. I can either go there or to the events view, but it's here in front of me, so I might as well just use this and teach it too. Well, the only other module that can get taught to on this config is that one, so let's teach it to that. Now, it's not a consumed event. It is a produced event. Now, there's a couple of things in here. Same sort of stuff as we talked about before. If I don't set some things here, then things won't happen. Switch. I better pick a switch or nothing will happen. I better pick a switch mode. I don't want to set any LEDs on and off. If I click that, I'll get the dialog for all the LEDs there. I don't want that. I'd still have to click that to make the LEDs work. Don't want it. Send short event. Now, this is a real oddbod in the 1Y firmware, and it's in the 4C as well. What happens if I don't click that is whatever my device number I'm using is, so 1001 in this case, if I don't click send short event, it'll actually send a long event with the node number of my CANPAN, node 100 and 1001. That is highly undesirable. So if I'm sending out a short event, make sure I click that or things won't behave correctly. This again gets down to CANPAN being a little bit interesting under the covers. You'll probably find this a little bit reassuring. It's the only module I've found to be this convoluted in the way you set things up. So, okay, we've got our produced event. Switch one, push on, push off, and send short event. Go. Alrighty. And I showed you none of that because I was looking at the wrong window. That was very, very silly. What will we do? I will delete that event and do it again. Okay. So let's get this window up. Or actually, what I might do is just get that window up there and show you what we have. So under main panel, if I look at events on the main panel, and we'll go and have a look at the variables and I'll show you what I did. I'm sorry that I didn't do this right for you. So when I came in before, it would have said consumed event. I don't want a consumed event. I want a produced event. I don't want a start of day. I don't want a self start of day. The difference self start of day, you basically associate a switch with to generate a start of day when you press it. But no, I want a produced event, and this is where I selected switch one, push off, don't set any LEDs. That's just to show you what would happen if I said set LEDs, and I have to do those things there. And I have to set that send short event because I'm going to be using short events. Okay, mistake again, and mistake explained. Okay, so now if I press the button here, switch one, my servo moves. Yeehaw. So as we're working through the workflow, we're down to the point where the servo moves when I hit it. If I go to the events view, we can see when I hit the switch, the only thing that's changing is the set to reverse event on the top. Okay, now we want some feedback. So well, let's go and set up the feedback. We might actually set up the 3 feedback events in one go and then just go and do the association. So down here, I want to see what numbers I used. So 2501, 2601, and 3001. Sorry, 2001 is where I started, 2501, 2601. Okay. So event view, add event, short event, 2001, if I remember rightly. Event name MPD01 is at normal. Yeah, I'll spell it out for this example. Add event. Now, what I might actually do is just go back to that one and have a look at the name, and I'm going to put it in a group. I'm going to call this feedback. Accept. Now, let's go create another one. Add event. Short event. 2501. Check event. And this one's going to be MPD01 is at, what do I do is at? Because it's very obvious it's a feedback event. Okay, we had a dog barking explosion, so we just paused that for a minute. Now, is at reverse. And I'm going to put that in the same group. Feedback. Add event. Now, we need yet another one. Add event. Short event. 2601, I believe we're at. 2601. Nope, it was 3001. 3001. Check event. Let's just make sure about that. Oh, go away, PowerPoint. Did I close PowerPoint? That was stupid. That's the one I want. Test main panel was, so I only want 2601. I don't know why I did it that way, but I did. It will do. 2601. So let's go back. Yes, something already existed, so let's go. 3001 already existed, so it complained at me. So I need a new event. 2601. It's a problem when you can't see your own cheat sheet. Normally you'd have this printed out beside you. Check event. Okay, this one is going to be MPD01 is passed, or has passed. Oh, I call it is passed. Mid. Probably should have called it has passed. Anyhow, that's okay. And we're going to make that a feedback event as well. Add event. So now, if I just wanted to see my feedback events, I could just go up here and go feedback. And there's all my feedback events. Okay. Now, we want these events to actually do something. So let's get the CANMEO Universal to generate them all for starters. There are no nodes using it. Teach. Selected node, that one. Teach. What do I want to have? I want a produced event. And I want normal is when it's at the off position. So I want to know when it's reached off. That's all I want. Generate me an event when that servo gets to the off position. Done. This is where the names are really useful. Close that. We have one against that, so it's also easy to see which ones haven't done. So I'm going to teach the reverse one to that guy. What do I want? When MPD01 has reached the on position, it's at reverse. Generate me an event. What event's it going to generate? That short event there. Close. Now we've got two. Now, we want one more, which is the past mid event. I'm going to teach that guy to this bloke here. This is the past mid event. Do this when MPD01 on channel 1 has reached mid. Now, is there anything else to do when that happens? And the answer is yes. When it reaches mid, we want channel 9 to change polarity. So, we want the polarity to go high when we get an on event. That will do us just fine. So once that servo moves past the midpoint in one direction, we'll get this event sent out with an on. This event sent out with an on. And if it goes the other way, we'll get it sent back with an off. And when that event's sent back, the CANMEO itself consumes the event and changes our polarity. Done. So let's just close that. We've got our 3 feedback events are unknown. We've got a couple of things we can do to find out what's going on. So let's say we just said, let's do a start a day. Guess what? We know that the servo is not at the off position. We know it is at the reverse position, and it was past mid. So if I press the switch, look at that. It's no longer at reverse. It's no longer past the midpoint. It is in the normal position. So our point is doing all the things it is supposed to do. Our panel is not, because we don't get any indication on our LEDs as to what has happened. That's the last thing we've got to do. Now, in our cheat sheet, it said, if it's at normal, turn on LED 1. So we're going to teach this event to the main panel. What do we want to have happen? We want a LED to behave normally, please. And LED 1. Turn it on when I get an on event, turn it off when I get an off event. Close. I'll just do the other one while we're here, and then we'll see them both work. Well, actually, I'll just press the button. Bingo! I got a LED on, and it's at the normal position. Yeehaw! I press it again. It's moved away from normal, so that LED went out. So let's make a LED do the right thing for reverse. So I want to teach the reverse event to the main panel and teach. And this one, all I need is LED 2, but I better tell it to do it. Okay. And now I'm just going to say close. Close. So let's hit the switch. Bingo. The other thing that the astute observer may have noticed is way back when I set up the midpoint, I set the channel output to be happening for channel 9. Well, on channel 9, I've got a little LED and a resistor connected to a three pin. I'll show you what it is. There. It's just a LED soldered onto a 3-pin header. And I plug it across channel 9. And every time I hit the button, it toggles from on to off. Now, in a real railway, that would be connected to the input for my relay. So, in terms of all of the things we had required for our scenario, let's just check. The scenario said a single switch to control the point. Well, we do that. It throws it to the on event, throws it to reverse. Yep. 2 LEDs, one for the normal, one for the reverse. We do that. Frog polarity control. We do that. Short events used throughout. We did that. And we configured it using MMC. And the other things we had in our cheat sheet were, let's have a test event and a start of day event. And all of that stuff works. So what you get left with when you do this is you end up with a very clean environment. You've only got the events that you really want. So you look at the events in the main panel. There's the set to reverse event for doing the switch. There's normal feedback, there's the reverse feedback, and there's the test for the main panel. And normally I would put these test ones into a group called test or initialization or something like that. There's no real point in having events named test and then put them in a test group, because if they're all named test up front, it doesn't help me with my search. Okay, so now what's next? Let's have a look at the presentation and see what's in there. And let's change the scene back to there. And let's go there, there, and F5. We're up to here. So here's your choice. You can keep doing what you always did with FCU, or you can pick up MMC and use it. I think it's pretty clear that the configuration of Universal is a lot nicer in MMC than where it is in FCU, and that's not discounting the great work that's going on for FCU. And there's plenty of times when existing layouts we're going to need to go back to FCU and do the work, or we can migrate stuff into MMC. There's a couple of things I still do need to show you. I touched on one before. I'll go back to, I'll just escape out of this again, and I'll go back to MMC. If you remember way back, every change I made, it asked me, did I want to do a backup? And I didn't do any. Well, MMC, the way it stores stuff, all the names associated with events are stored in its layout.json file. The old WebFCU, which morphed, well, was the basis for the starting point for MMC, took the view that the module was authoritative, whereas FCU takes the view that its config file is authoritative. Now, what happens? There are obviously cases where you can get the config file out of sync with the modules, and we've probably all been there with FCU. We've gone and done some test config, then we've gone and created a new config and totally forgot that the module's still got stuff on it, and FCU does not show us that. And we wonder what the hell's going on. MMC takes the opposite approach and says, I'm not going to keep information about node variables and event variables in my layout.json file. The module is authoritative. And that's fine. It causes a lot more I/O because every time I need to know about what events are on a module, it goes and reads them. But the other thing that happens is if I have a node failure, how do I get my node variables and events back? Well, right here, backup's 0. So I'm going to go advanced on the main panel node. And I'm going to say backup and restore. All I have to do is say backup, and it will create a backup for me. And you can see that it actually had to go out and read everything off the module to do the work. Okay, that's done. Now we've got a backup there. I can rename it, I can delete it, or I can restore. Close, close. One backup exists. Now pick the other node and go backup and restore, backup. Does the same thing. Lots of I/O going on. And done. So we've got backup of both nodes. Now, what I would say to you is, guess what? A backup that's never been tested ain't much of a backup. Righto. What happens if we say, my module's not behaving, it's dropped an event, or I've had to put a new module in and I need to do a restore. So I've gone and brought another CANMEO in at the same address, and I go, okay, I better restore it. I go to advanced, I go to backup and restore. I pick this guy, and I say restore. Restoring node variables, yep. It deletes everything and then it restores everything. So, erasing events, restoring event variables. Guess what? The I/O is still catching up on that board. Okay. Close. There it is, just as I had it. Let's press some switches. Okay. It often jumps like that when you've done a restore because it didn't know where the servo was. Yeah. So it just, hey, I've hit it, and the software thought it was at the other end, so it'll do a jump. But there we go. We've done a save and a restore. Okay. So whatever you do with MMC, get used to, I've done some work, go and save the modules, go and back up the modules that I've done work on. There has been discussion about augmenting the backup process, and Duncan sent me a document to review this week to go through. Personally, I would like it to at least highlight which ones I've changed since the last backup I did. But it doesn't do that. If it did that, then I just go click on them all. The other alternative I'd like, which would take some time, which is a cause of concern at this stage, is go back up every node that is actually connected to MMC right now. It would be go get lunch, but hey, that's okay. Okay, where are we at? Back to the presentation. Let's see what we've got there. Right, the next thing is, what's the next presentation going to be about? And the next presentation will be a lot shorter. There was a lot of stuff to cover today that are things that are either not done in FCU or things that augment your workflow and help you know what's going on. So, yes, I apologize for this video being long. There's no two ways about that. Sven's was only half an hour or so. But I thought it important to bring the realities of actually configuring a layout down to an example on how to do things. And Sven was doing his real layout as well, but at that stage we didn't have names, we didn't have backups, those sorts of things. So those things are good. The next time we get together virtually, I'll be looking at improving workflow, import and export and import. Shift F5 and what really? So the next time we get together, I'll look at export and import. Now, what happens there is export will export all the event names, numbers, the channel names, all that sort of jazz, into a spreadsheet. The power of that is then, if I want more event numbers in a sequence, I can use the powers of a spreadsheet to fill in the names and the channel names and the event names and all the stuff that I'm going to need. And I don't have to go and enter them one by one, which was a considerable amount of time in what we did. So we'll go through that. It'll be quite quick because it doesn't take long to do. It's a logical extension. It's a massive workflow improvement, and it's one of the things Neil talked about, Neil Brody, about, yeah, spreadsheets are where so much documentation lives. And the power of them when we can import and export them in our configuration utility is just amazing. Last slide. That's it. Hopefully for some of you, you've got a new beginning thinking about using MMC, coming to terms with it. Those that want to jump ahead might want to grab an existing configuration they have and use import and import an FCU configuration. I didn't cover how to install MMC. There's plenty of stuff on the Merg knowledge base about how to do that. I hope you guys found this useful. Yep, please stick some comments in the against the YouTube video, or post something in the forum. It's more likely I'll see them in the comments on YouTube, but it might induce some more discussion in the forum, so take your pick. Okay, thanks guys. I'm going to close out the recording. It's been long, but hopefully rather complete for you guys. Okay,